So
Yeah.
you've clearly learned a lot of lessons about communication over your 30-year career.
Mhm.
What would you say is your current focus of what you're working on in improving your communication right now?
Right. So when you have a business, you need to grow it, you need to expand it. And one aspect, which is my main dedication at the moment, is to learn proper and impactful marketing English.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a real challenge to me because it's a completely different way of looking at the language than when you want to be excellent and good and impactful in conversations, in coaching conversations,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a different way of wanting to impact people. And this is my current challenge at the moment.
Yeah.
English marketing.
Right. I think that raises an important point about when we think about I want to be good in English, but there are so many areas of English. Like there's the English that you use in coaching, there's the English you use in marketing. And so a lot of my clients say to me, I'm fine actually with the English in the business, but when I have to go out for a dinner with a client, then I'm really unsure about how to have a conversation. So it can vary depending on those topics as well.
Now that you're saying this, that was my experience as well. I have to say, pretty good at business English. I was working in private banks for over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the English I was using when speaking and writing, even in writing, to clients, email and letters, and holding conversations with business clients within finance was not a problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always about learning how to develop our knowledge of English within a certain environment and circumstance, right? And what has helped me to get better at this is always asking myself at the beginning of a conversation or a letter or an email is, what do I want to communicate? What's the main root of what I want to say? What do I want this person to react? What do I want this person to understand or to get from me? And focusing on what I want for the other side, I was able to detach myself from wanting to be perfect in grammar on any aspect. Yes. But marketing English is my current learning curve.
Right. So, and that's because you're communicating with different types of people. Is that the
yes, exactly. I work on a global level, and in this case, I have to kind of consider that native speakers will be reading and watching and listening to me, as well as people who have English as a second or third language. So how do I speak and communicate at the level that everybody gets what I want to say? It's not that evident, I have to say. So it's a steep learning curve I'm going through at the moment. But I love it. I love learning. I think I'm a lifelong learner.
Well,
and I love it.
Same, absolutely. And I think many of our listeners are as well. So that's what attracts people partly to the podcast, as well as this desire to just keep on learning. So I love that. And on that note, I'm sure that our listeners would love some advice or recommendations from you. So what sort of tips can you give to our listeners?
Well, I think I kind of already mentioned it. I really would suggest to do some work on not wanting to be perfect. Do some work on accepting your grammar level by, of course, always keeping it in improvement, but do some inner work on the thoughts you can maintain in your head, or which kind of thoughts are going to support you being an effective communicator or not. And as far as I could advise perhaps your audience, the most powerful decision I took personally was to detach myself from delivering a perfect grammar. It's really not requested. It's just requested by our own heads. And I think we also, when we focus too much on that, our message loses impact and meaning, and we become less of powerful and impactful and meaningful communicator if we focus only on grammar. That's what I would advise. So as well, at the same time, what comes by itself when we decide, okay, I'm not going to focus myself on delivering 110% perfect grammar, but I want to put much more importance on sharing an authentic message, on being true to what I really believe in, on staying true to what I really want to express, and also put some dedication perhaps in thinking, what do you want the other part, the other person, or the rest of the people who are listening to you, what do you want them to understand from what you're communicating to them? How do you want them to react? How do you want them to feel? That has helped me to focus on this rather than on grammar.
Definitely. I think it's all about the audience. That's what I say so often, especially with presentations. It's all about the audience. Focus on the audience, and then it takes the pressure off you as a speaker as well. Brilliant.
And at the same time, Helen, I'd like to add, there is not only voice and words which are a means of expressing ourselves, right? We have various ways of expressing and communicating. We can communicate authenticity as well by the tone of voice. We can communicate with a smile. These are all means which are coming in support of our merely expressed words, right? We can communicate on various levels. So I would really suggest detach from grammar, focus on who is listening to you, and also use the other means like smiles and facial expressions and tone of voice. Those are really helpful.
Yeah, all part of communication.
Yeah.
So because you are an expert in an area that is of great interest to many of the Sasaga podcast listeners, I would love to just ask you a little bit, because it's really interesting. Recently, I've heard quite a few of my clients and community who have been maybe not so happy in their positions, and they're thinking about, should I be doing something different in my company, or looking at another option. In fact, some of them have taken that route as well, which is wonderful. So for someone who's just not feeling so happy and fulfilled or stressed in their current work, what kind of tips do you have for them?
Right. So what I would say is, what I see pretty often happening is that when people are unhappy at work, they start focusing on looking around and looking at elements which are external to them and their own situation. And I have honestly not seen that working pretty often, because what happens is that perhaps you get yourself in another job very quickly, but the other job is just like a copy of what you had before. So you find yourself very quickly in the same situation as you were before, because you didn't take enough time to look at what was going on really within you and within the environment you find yourself in. So what I would really advise people who are finding themselves unhappy at work currently is start reflecting on, how do you want things to be different, where do you think you could feel better at work? What is it that you would need? So start from yourself and take some time to reflect what is important to you. And realize, which is also important, realize why is it that you don't feel well where you are. And let's start, for example, one tip is start making a list for yourself. You take a piece of paper, and I always tell my clients at the beginning, take a piece of paper and start making a list. What it is that you don't want, and what it is that you want within your current work situation. What is it that you don't like, and what is it that you like? And then from there, start reflecting about how does what you want fit who you are, and what needs to be different from you, coming from yourself. What needs to change, right? So focusing on what is there and you don't want can be very interesting in the beginning to get clarity on knowing what you don't want, but then really start focusing on what is it that I really want, and learning what is important to you, what kind of environment you want to be able to interact with, what kind of people you want to have around you, what do you want your main tasks to be about, how do you want your daily work to look like and impact you. So I would really advise people not to go and start looking for jobs without having taken some time and reflect on some inner factors. And that's what I accompany people to, because many people need some support. It's not that the easiest to do on your own. And unfortunately, because pretty often it happens that they just jump from one job to another because they want to escape the situation they find themselves in. Yes, not taking the time to reflect on what it is that we really want and who we are, and how do we want work to look like, can lead to some mistakes. But one tip is really give yourself time and don't start looking around.
Right. That's such a refreshing perspective, because I think it's so natural to look outside, compare with others, compare with other companies, other situations, without taking that time to really think about what's important for you. And there's that, you just reminded me of that saying. I think it goes something like, wherever you are there. Right. Yes. So even if you move to a different place, it's still you. So a lot of the change, it's not just the circumstances you're in, but it's you yourself as well. And that's something that is often overlooked.
Yes, which is actually the essence of how I accompany my clients too. It's about really understanding that if we want our environment to change, we need to change first.
Yeah.
It's not if we put ourselves exactly the same way we are, think and feel now into another environment, most part of the time the same situation will repeat itself.
That is brilliant. I love it. I love it. Wonderful, wonderful insight for us there. So I think that's a great place to close today. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
I just wanted to reiterate, less focus on perfection is going to be very healthy because it's also in support of our feeling good, right? Of our wellness and of feeling more lighthearted when we have to go into a conversation with somebody who's a native speaker, right? Taking focus away from perfection is very helpful. And as a consequence, detach from perfect grammar and stay true to who you are. That's what I wanted to say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Claudia. It's been brilliant. I'm sure you've definitely, you've educated and inspired so many people today. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.